McDonald's and Burger King and Wendy's had like little, like babe creatures, like little stuffed animals and stuff that they were giving away. And it's just, we live in this sick culture that like, literally it's all right to love them and eat them as well. If that was the case, when your dog dies, why not eat him? Why not? He's meat. Well, that's a disrespect. Even though he's no longer alive, it's still a disrespect to who he was, to his personality. Well, these animals have personality as well. And this is the closest thing you'll come to see the reality for these animals in the Matrix. And for the most part, it's in cartoon form. We can't even really get to see it. But today we step outside the Matrix, and I'm not going to show you Meet Your Meat because it's too long. Every time I show it to adults, they walk out the room. Unlike in our school, they kind of have to sit there. Although I do tell them they can put their head down and stuff. So I'm going to show you actually a shorter version. This is only 3 minutes, and like I tell kids, you don't have to watch it. You can put your head down. But if it's too difficult for you to watch, but it's not too difficult for you to eat, I think we need to question that. I think we need to understand why is it acceptable behind closed doors. This is another video from Farm Sanctuary. Oh, and a lot of people say to me, well, what's wrong with dairy? They get the whole meat thing. You have to kill an animal. But what's wrong with dairy? Well, this video will show you in terms of ethics, and we'll get into the health as well. The very first images you're going to see is the dairy industry, and you're going to see a cow give birth. And I want you to notice what happens to the calf. And I want you
If I could talk to animals that are being confined and abused now on factory farms, I would say I'm sorry for what we're doing to you. I wish it wasn't this way, and I'm doing everything I know to stop it. And hopefully we will be able to stop it. There's not really a whole lot of good you can say. I mean, you just gotta hope that it can stop, and hope that people will recognize the harm we're causing and will choose a different way. Meat, milk, and eggs come from real animals. They don't just come from the grocery store. And these animals desire to live, and they want to be free of pain and suffering and fear. And on today's farms, these animals only know fear and pain at human hands. They never know human kindness. They never know mercy. And when people buy these products, they are unwittingly supporting that type of cruelty and that type of callousness. The workers, they have to lose part of their heart. They have to shut their eyes to certain aspects of what they're doing. Can you imagine what it would be like to cut the throats of animals for 8 hours a day? It's a bloody, violent job, and nobody should have to do it. I don't know what it means that, we can participate in such cruelty without paying attention to it, without caring about it, without wanting to do different. Citizens want to assume that animals will be treated humanely, that there are laws on the books to prevent cruelty. And people are usually surprised to learn there aren't. If people looked at what was happening, they'd be appalled. Most people would not support the type of abuse that has become common on factory farms.
Any questions on the video? Okay, this is where the majority of our meat, dairy, and eggs are coming from. A lot of people, their first response is, why is this happening? Why isn't somebody doing something about it? You have the power to do something about it. Every change, every tradition in this country that we no longer have is coming from one individual stepping up and taking action, and other people following that individual. There's a great movie, if you ever get a chance, called The Witness, a documentary, very short, something about an hour long. And the guy who it's about says a miracle is a change in perception. That's his definition of a miracle, a change in perception. And when people ask, why is this happening? It's a very simple reason. You know, how many of you have a cat or dog? Would you ever cut your cat's tail off? Would you ever burn your dog's lips off? Would you ever take a hot iron coal and place it against the flesh of your cat or dog? Of course not. Of course not. Would you do it to any stray dog, stray cat? Of course not. This is exactly what we do to cows, chickens, and pigs every day, every hour in the United States. We literally mutilate their bodies. We debeak them without any painkillers. We castrate them without any painkillers. We remove their horns. We cut their ears. We cut their tails off. And it's considered a business. It's considered acceptable. And why? Because our perception of this animal is different from this animal. An animal is simply a change in perception. That's it. There's no difficulty. People say, well, it must be difficult being a vegan. Is it difficult to wake up every morning and walk? No, you just do it. You just change your perception. I mean, again, if we go back to 150 years ago to slavery, what ended slavery? A civil war. Literally, people had to kill each other to finally end that. I mean, literally, people had to die because people's perception was so absurd. It was just so screwed up that the only way we could solve this problem was through war. Now, if you put a gun to somebody's head who's a racist and you say, stop being a racist, that doesn't solve the problem. Slavery didn't end racism. Racism still exists today. How do you get somebody who's racist to lose that racism? You have to change their perception. That is what we call a miracle, a change in perception. You simply no longer view animals as being different, and you act upon that. You act upon your natural instinct. You act upon that compassion. A lot of people say, why doesn't the government do something? Why doesn't the government do something? Why don't, you know, what I would say to you is don't hold your breath. Don't hold your breath, because I want to get the exact number. It's like $41 billion. There we go. U.S. taxpayers fork over $31 billion in agricultural subsidies every year to continue farm practices. Government supports this. They support these industries. I mean, just take a look at our former president, George W. Bush. He's a cattle rancher. Al Gore, the whole inconvenient truth. You notice how he never mentions that raising animals for food generates more greenhouse gases than all the cars, trucks, ships, planes in the world combined? You want to know why? He owns a cattle ranch. So his money is invested in this industry that is not only polluting the earth, but it's destroying life. It's taking the life from another being. So the government's not going to respond to this. It's up to the consumer to respond. I mean, we have the utmost power. A lot of people say, well, can't we just create a better condition for them? You know, humane slaughter, cage-free, free range. They're just labels. They don't mean nothing to the animal. Cage-free means nothing to the animal. It means a lot to us because it allows us to justify an action that we really don't support. That if we really saw it, we wouldn't want to support it. Humane slaughter, I mean, what does that look like? That way you give the animal milk and cookies and you chop his head off? But if I gave one of you milk and cookies and chop your head off, would everybody be like, well, at least you got his milk and cookies, you know? I mean, how do you do any act of violence humanely? Can you humanely rob somebody? Can you humanely rape somebody? Is there such a thing as a humane war, humane genocide? Of course not. Violence is violence, and we need to start calling it as is. This is a battery cage. It literally is the size of a milk crate. This wide, this high. You're going to put 4 to 6 hens in a cage this size, and you're going to burn their beaks off. Well, why do that? Well, because in these conditions, they become aggressive. They're not naturally aggressive, but kept in these conditions, they start to peck at each other. I feel like if I took everybody in these, this second row right here, put you in that corner, sealed it off, and kept you there for 48 hours straight, I guarantee you won't all be standing when I come back tomorrow. Simply because you want more space. So how does the industry solve this? Well, once again, a label, cage-free. This is a cage-free farm in Virginia. It's just a label. It just is another way for us to feel better about what we're participating in. According to the industry, this is freedom. What is your definition of freedom? Does this apply? The industry says yes. Cage-free simply means you can take 500 hens and put them in this room. That is cage-free. Divide the room in half. This half is outside, that half is inside. 250 are living outside that can never go in. 250 inside can never go out. That's what we call free range. It's just a label. But even if you found that magical farm, that old McDonald's farm that we all have stuck in our head, even if you found that, and good luck finding it, it doesn't matter, because all male chicks born in the egg industry, whether it's free range, cage-free, organic, are thrown out. Literally. Why throw out male chicks? Serve any purpose. They don't produce eggs. They don't fit into the equation. They are of no purpose to the industry. So we are debeaking them, keeping them in unnatural conditions, denying them the ability to fly, to spread their wings. We're still caging them, even though we call it cage-free, and they can still be debeaked in these conditions. And we're throwing out all the male chicks, also that we can have this. What is this? What is an egg? A lot of people think it's a baby chick. A lot of people think it's a fetus or an embryo. It's not, which is good. I don't know why anybody would want a fetus or an embryo. What is it? Well, once a month, all the women in this room, you shed an egg. What's that called? The period. You're eating a hen period. It's the menstruation cycle discharge of a hen. And if it was just called that from the very beginning of our parents, you know, hey, you want some scrambled hen periods for breakfast, I think we all would have said, no, I'll pass. So we call it something else. We give a label to it that's, you know, I mean, just think about it. We call it bacon as opposed to decomposing flesh. You know, we call it what it is. It's a rotting animal. It's the corpse of an animal. You want to know what our diet looks like in nature? We are the vultures. We are the vultures of this world. All right? We literally eat dead animals. We're not eating them like, you know, that have just been prepared dead, unless you're a hunter. And even when you're hunting, you're still, you know, going home, you're cooking and all that stuff. We're eating animals that have been dead for a while. And even our fruits and vegetables. I mean, there's the whole range of things. Even our fruits and vegetables aren't as fresh. You know, I mean, unless you have, you know, your own tree, unless you're growing your own garden, and that's really, you know, the ideal. But in this culture, you know, can we live like that? No. But can we at least cause less suffering? Can we stop this system? A lot of people say, well, again, let's just try to fix it. No, the system's broken. It's broken. Nothing's going to solve it except just getting out of the system. You know, honey is another one. What's honey? It's bee vomit. It's regurgitated throw up. If it was just called bee vomit, again, nobody would be buying a product in the store that had the word vomit next to it. You know, my dog can throw up. It might taste like cookies and cream, but it's still throw up. It doesn't take away from the fact of what it really is. Dairy cows. Even your happy cows in California are hooked up with machines. All right. Now, when does a cow start producing milk? She's pregnant. You know that I actually go to high schools and I've had health teachers. After I've said that, after the presentation is over, go, huh? Do cows have to be pregnant to get milk? And I just look at them like, you're joking, right? No, I just thought that there was these magical cows that just produce milk, just naturally. Why would a mammal be able to produce milk without having, you know, copulation, without having, you know, a birth, without being impregnated first? Of course, all mammals have to be impregnated to produce milk. So, how did she get pregnant? Well, you know, a lot of kids and a lot of adults like to think there's some sex going on, right? At least they get the pleasure of having sex. There's no sex on the farm. It's not like the farmer is going to wait for the bull and the cow to get it on. It's not going to set the mood like some candles on there and wait. It's a business he's running. The business is a generated profit. All right? A lot of people say, why can't we just wait for the animals to die? Good luck with that. You know, we're feeding, you know, we're killing 300 animals every second. And by the way, you know, 10 billion cows, chickens, and pigs are slaughtered every year in the United States, and yet still 12 million children under the age of 12 go to bed hungry or are at risk of hunger every night in the United States. It takes 10 pounds of grain fed to a cow to produce 1 pound of beef. Math is just not working out. All right, so now she's pregnant, right? Gives birth. What happens to her babies? All male calves taken away from the mother, immediately chained by the neck to a crate, deprived of their mother's milk, fed an inefficient diet. Also, their body can become anemic, lack of iron, so that their meat can become tender. They will never turn around, never see the light of day. They will live like this for 8 to 18 weeks. And then they are slaughtered, and we call it veal. Why? Because just like the male chicks in the egg industry, they don't fit into the equation. A lot of people think, oh, veal is terrible. I would never eat veal. I'd never eat foie gras. As if like one form of suffering is greater than another form of suffering. Every glass of milk supports the veal industry. And the only reason why you're drinking cow's milk, if you're drinking cow's milk, is because a calf chained to a box isn't. Even the female calves are taken away from the mother. Now, they'll live a life just like their mother, which is the constant cycle of impregnation, birth, and milking. They take away the baby from the mother. They take they take the calf away from the mother. Why? Because if the calf were to stay with the mother, she would drink the milk. So you have to remove the calf. Biologically speaking, though, who is a cow producing milk for? The calf. I mean, just like when your mom was pregnant with you, who was producing milk for? It's for you. It wasn't your daddy, it wasn't the neighbor, it wasn't the dog or the cat. In fact, where did all these animals get their milk from? Mothers. We're the only species on this planet that take the milk from another animal. When did these animals stop consuming milk? After infancy. We're the only species on this planet that continue drinking milk after infancy. And if you really don't think it's that big of a deal for, you know, 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, 80-year-olds, men and women drinking cow's milk, if you really don't think that's that absurd, all right. If I brought a pregnant woman into this room right now, how many of you would want to drink her milk? It's absurd. It's literally absurd, all right? And when people say to me, oh, but but I'm addicted to cheese. And